If you're doing things in secret, things that you have to hide, that's not living in integrity. That's self-abandonment. Welcome back to the Secure Husband Podcast. Bruce Abbott, certified professional coach and founder of SecureHusband.com, where I help good men grow into strong, grounded leaders who lead with emotional maturity and not control, shame, or fear. I want to talk about secrecy today. And I want to say straight up, I have been in this position where you are at. So I am talking to you out of love. It's not blame. It's not shame. It's not guilt. But it's the subtle things that we do, the micro moments where we feel we have to hide, where we feel we have to do things in secret. Maybe it's deleting your browser history, telling half-truths, hiding receipts, keeping a second bank account, little things like that. It could even be the big things, numbing out with alcohol, or maybe you've got a problem with pornography or masturbation or social media or gambling. It's these behaviors that cause you to act out of alignment. You're no longer in integrity. This is self-abandonment. And yeah, you might be saying to yourself, okay, it's harmless. She'll overreact if she finds out. It's not a big deal. Ask yourself this: why am I hiding it? If it wasn't a big deal, why do I feel the need for secrecy and to keep it hidden? And I'm not here to judge, but this is about inner peace and integrity and freedom. Secrecy is the opposite of integrity. A man without integrity can't feel secure. And even though you may be the only person that knows what you're doing, that secrecy feeds internal shame and distance in your marriage. And the thing about secrecy is it's an inner disconnection. Now, the secrecy, that's just a symptom of a bigger problem, because you're trying to fill a hole inside. And when you have these self-abandoning behaviors that you have to hide, you really become disconnected from yourself. It's more than just hiding things from your wife. You're hiding it from yourself because you don't feel safe. And it's not because you're trying to be malicious. It isn't even as much about her reaction. It's about your own wounds that you're trying to heal. It's about that hole inside that you're trying to fill. Because whether you realize it or not, you don't feel safe with yourself. You're ashamed of your impulses. You're afraid of your desires. You're terrified of judgment from others and from your own inner critic. So you hide. You compartmentalize things. You keep things in the dark because it's usually self-abandoning behavior. And it's those things that can be detrimental to a family and a marriage. So it goes beyond just that action itself. The action itself is a symbolism of the shame. You're lonely in your marriage, and so you're addicted to masturbation and pornography. You try to numb out with drinking or drugs. But see, here's the thing. Everything that you keep in the dark is eventually going to control you. It's the shame that's wrapped around it. Secrecy isn't safety, although we do it because we think it's keeping us safe. It's really just trapping us. So the first step in the Secure Husband process is awareness. It's just noticing. Get curious. I want you to just stop and ask yourself, where in my life am I pretending or hiding or avoiding honesty? Where am I not coming across truly authentic? Maybe I'm watching things online that would be very embarrassing if she found out. Or maybe I'm spending money on things that I'm not telling her about, hiding receipts, having inappropriate conversations with female colleagues, just friends. Maybe it's just not speaking up when something bothers you and then you secretly resent her for it. You got to notice those things. And what are the self-abandoning behaviors that are associated with those? What is it that you're trying to hide? Get honest with yourself. No filters, no excuses. Because until you face it, you're not going to be able to change it. You're going to keep carrying this gnawing guilt. And that guilt and that shame quietly erodes your self-respect. Because you cannot respect yourself if you keep violating your own values. And the secrecy is the symptom of that. So that's got to be your first act of integrity, is noticing. Seeing the truth, even when it's painful. And then you make a choice. You choose to align with honesty over approval. Because it's about intention now. And you get to choose the kind of man that you want to be, not the kind of reaction that you want to avoid. You ask yourself, do I want to become a man who's honest even when it is uncomfortable? Or do I want to be a man who seeks comfort even when it requires dishonesty? Because a lot of that secrecy And those behaviors comes from that one core wound inside. It's fear of rejection. If she knew this about me, she wouldn't love me or desire me or give me affection or attention. If I told the truth, I would completely lose her respect. If I was honest, I'd lose my safety, my comfort. So we chase approval instead of alignment. But you're in pain. It's why you're chasing the self-abandoning behaviors in the first place. Is the approval that you're getting real? Because if it's based on hiding or pretending, is it actually intimacy or is it just performance? And now you have to choose. Do you want to be seen, truly seen, or just accepted? Because you can't have both without integrity. That integrity starts when you say, I'm going to be honest, not because it's easy, but because it's right. And because I respect myself too much to keep living in the dark, to keep living from this hidden life. That's maturity. That's authenticity. It means getting rid of those self-abandoning behaviors and no longer living hidden. Because there's a reason that we hide. There's a reason that we lie and we conceal and we avoid and pretend, because somewhere deep inside there's a wounded little boy who learned that being fully seen is dangerous. Every single podcast I talk about that inner child inside, because he's running your life. Because maybe as a kid you got punished for telling the truth or got hurt when you were vulnerable or mocked for expressing your feelings. You learned to hide. You learned to mask. You learned to numb. That boy, he doesn't trust people to be safe. And he especially doesn't trust you to protect him. So now as a grown man, this little boy inside tells you, just don't tell her. She'll overreact. You'll get in trouble. Shame on you for wanting that. But you're not that little boy anymore. And the story that he had, he needed when he was little. But that story doesn't have to be yours now. And you take this next step to meet that little boy. And with love and compassion, you say, hey, little guy, I know you're scared of being rejected. I won't reject you. I'm here. And together, we're going to tell the truth. We are no longer going to self-abandon with these destructive behaviors, whatever that is. Because you don't become a secure man by silencing that inner child inside. You become a secure man by fathering him with love and compassion. You listen because nobody listened to him before. And so you dialogue with that little boy. You get into a quiet place and you talk to him. And you listen because he's going to tell you a lot. It's your subconscious speaking to you. And together, you dialogue with your higher power because you need something bigger than you. You know, if you talk to any recovering alcoholics who've gone through AA, and I know people sometimes have very pointed views towards Alcoholics Anonymous, but it is one of the most successful treatment programs for alcoholism ever. But what's the first step in there? It's turning it over to a higher power. It's turning it over to something greater than you, because on your own, you haven't been able to do it. So you got to go to your divine guidance, whatever your belief system is, and say, God, I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with the pornography. I'm struggling with the alcohol. I'm struggling with the drugs. I'm struggling with social media. I'm struggling with the gamble. I'm struggling with masturbation. I'm struggling with these things. I need to turn this over to you. And you have that dialogue between your inner child and your spiritual guidance, because there's power in that. And that is where healing begins. And that's where you start to break the cycle, the vicious cycle that you're in. And you start to heal and you start to make changes in your life. You make changes in your marriage. You understand how the secrecy breeds distrust. Because when you hide things, even the small little things, your wife may not know the details, but she feels it. I've mentioned before, it's amazing how women just have that sense. She can feel your lack of presence. She can feel your distance, your defensiveness, your shift in energy. She might not know why, but it causes her to disconnect too. She may not know the reason that she doesn't trust what you say, but she can feel it. And then you resent her for being suspicious. But the truth is that the secrecy breaks emotional safety and destroys emotional trust, because sometimes those secrets come out in very hurtful ways. Because without that safety, there's no intimacy. So if you want closeness or connection or warmth, sexual desire, you're never going to build it on secrecy. And even if she never finds out what it is that you're hiding, you know what it is. And that knowing makes you less present, less secure, less confident. And over time, that becomes who you are unless you choose a different path. And this is hard stuff. If you struggle with sexual addiction, if you struggle with chemical addiction. Yeah, it's hard. You need professional help. But the first step is taking loving responsibility, not from guilt, but from leadership. That's where you step up and you say, you know what, I want to live in integrity, not because I have to, but because I want to be proud of the man I'm becoming. And that means telling the truth. It means owning your actions, no excuses. It means making amends if you need to. It means learning from your mistakes and not shaming yourself for them. It means putting new safeguards in place to honor your values and to no longer participate in these destructive, self-abandoning behaviors. And you become trustworthy to yourself again. And this has nothing to do with your wife, nothing to do with her forgiveness. That's not the goal. Self-trust is the goal. When you can trust yourself to be honest and real and responsible, you stop fearing things because you're already living in integrity. You're living transparently because your peace is not worth it. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest with yourself. Because that peace is going to matter more than your comfort and whatever that dopamine hit is. And that's when you start making choices that your secure self, your future self will thank you for. And you let go of those things that require secrecy. And it builds integrity. It allows you to be real in your relationships, even when it is tough. And you get to live authentically, openly, because you no longer have to manage anyone's perception of you. And you start to feel free. Start to feel grounded and at peace. Secrecy's heavy, but integrity takes those burdens off of you. That's strength. You become the kind of man that your wife can trust. You become the kind of man you can trust, and that is the goal. Because every time you act in secret, you trade peace for fear. You trade self-respect for shame. You trade leadership for avoidance. But it's never too late to come back into alignment. That's what integrity is. It's truth and love and leadership. Hey, I hope this podcast was helpful for you. Take a moment. If you're a regular listener, will you give me a review? I'd really appreciate that. And subscribe to this podcast if you don't already. Share this episode with someone who you think may need to hear this. And if you need help getting unstuck, visit securehusband.com and set up a free 30-minute consultation with me. No pressure, just a conversation. And I'll see you again on the next Secure Husband podcast. Thanks for listening.